Kunaktakame chanyavu, amante tevote, into tuitaiwe, inepo Haley Maria Salazar tea quintone yoeme into Sierra Madre po into Aguascalientes po hoemem. Greetings to you all. I am Haley Maria Salazar. I am Yoeme, enrolled with the Yaquis of Southern California and a descendant of the Sierra Madres and Aguascalientes peoples of Mexico. As an assistant teaching professor in the Indigenous Nation Studies Department at Portland State University and co-founder of Copy Left Cultivars, a nonprofit working to preserve and protect vulnerable plants using copyleft research and education, I'm grounded in research, education, and community as processes of reclamation, revitalization, and regeneration of Indigenous knowledge systems. Before I begin, I would like to extend my deepest gratitudes to Matt Powers and the Our Future community for creating this space of connection. Today, I am honored to share with you all the work of Copy Left Cultivars Regenerative Relations Initiative, an alliance of 7 Indigenous communities embarking on a year-long journey to safeguard biodiversity, support traditional agricultural practices, and advancing sovereignty over food, land, and data through Indigenous-led regenerative approaches. We stand at a critical moment where our planet's future depends not on technological solutions alone, but on rekindling the profound relationships between humans and ecosystems. Copyleft Cultivars recognizes that Indigenous knowledge systems represent living libraries of wisdom, cultivated through millennia of intentional stewardship and deep place-based ecological relationships. The Regenerative Relations Initiative emerges from this understanding, acknowledging that sustainable progress requires us to honor and learn from knowledge keepers who have maintained the essential balance between cultivation and conservation. Indigenous communities continue to sustain sophisticated systems of ecological knowledge, preserving and transmitting wisdom across generations. In today's context, where conventional farming costs continue to rise and biodiversity faces unprecedented challenges, these knowledge systems become increasingly vital for our planet's future. In response to these challenges, Copyleft Cultivars has developed an AI-powered agriculture assistant that preserves and shares sustainable agricultural wisdom. Our agriculture assistant platform serves as an interface between Indigenous, traditional, ecological, and cultural knowledge, natural farming practices, scientific understanding, and contemporary agricultural needs. This platform democratizes access to regenerative farming practices across linguistic and geographical boundaries. Our digital ecosystem, currently supports over 700 testers and 100 supporting Patreon users across 8 different countries and 40 farms, ranging from urban gardens to extensive agricultural operations. The platform supports over 100 languages, making regenerative agricultural knowledge accessible to communities across diverse linguistic backgrounds. This extensive language support enables direct access to agricultural guidance, reducing barriers and ensuring more accurate knowledge transfer. A future phase of development of this platform will focus on Indigenous language revitalization, recognizing that language preservation and regeneration is intrinsically linked to maintaining traditional agricultural knowledge and cultural practices. This expansion represents more than just adding new languages. It embodies our commitment to supporting cultural sovereignty and Indigenous knowledge systems. We envision working directly with Indigenous communities to integrate their languages into this platform through a collaborative approach that ensures accurate preservation of traditional agricultural terminology, integration of cultural concepts and traditional ecological knowledge, the community's ability to maintain sovereignty over their language and their cultural data, and how it is used within the platform and support intergenerational language transmission. The issue of digital accessibility presents a significant challenge for many Indigenous communities, particularly those in remote or rural areas. While digital technologies offer really powerful tools for agricultural development and knowledge sharing, limited internet infrastructure often creates barriers to accessing these resources. This digital divide reflects broader patterns of infrastructure that affect Indigenous communities worldwide. Understanding these connectivity issues, we have developed our agriculture assistant natural farming platform with offline functionality as a core feature. The system has the ability to operate effectively without constant internet connection, allowing for communities to access crucial information for their efforts, even if there is limited or intermittent internet access. So I wanted to share a little bit about how it looks like to use our agriculture assistant. I did ask a couple of questions in Spanish, just to kind of showcase the language abilities of our um, agriculture assistant. I brought an example from my tribe, the Yaquis of Southern California. We recently acquired some land in Anza Borrego Springs near Yaqui Well Road. And I talked a little bit about our vision to do some ecological restoration work, as well as develop a first foods garden. I shared a couple of different traditional foods that are really culturally relevant to my tribe, but also are a key component of how we have sustained ourselves since time immemorial. I asked about amaranth, cactus, mesquite, chia, tobacco, corn, and I asked, hey, we want to grow these things. When should we be planting these things? How can we best support their growth? And part of what our agriculture assistant offered us here is when to go about planting different cultivars, the different nutritional needs for these plants, different local plant bioaccumulators, their information, and which of these plant bioaccumulators that are locally found can support the specific crops. So I wanted to share this example with you all, just so that way you can see a little bit about what our agriculture assistant can offer. Yeah, so I think that this is a really promising way to support communities that are remembering certain practices, or maybe want to expand their knowledge frameworks in supporting the different cultivars that they hope to grow. Our initiative is rooted in Indigenous knowledge systems. These are frameworks that are as intricate and diverse as global ecosystems themselves, and they are enriched with deep understanding of relationships between people, plants, and so much more. Traditional farming practices interpret the land as a living entity, where conventional agriculture might see unwanted growth. Indigenous practices recognize our plant relatives as indicators. They reveal to us the soil health conditions and supporting primary crops through these complementary relationships. Indigenous agricultural practices demonstrate that biodiversity and soil health and food security form an interconnected system where each of the different elements within it strengthens the other. Traditional stewardship approaches have consistently shown that maintaining biological biodiversity directly enhances soil fertility, which in turn supports robust and reliable food production. It's through this holistic understandings that stands in a contrast to industrial agricultural models that often prioritize short-term yields over long-term ecosystem health. Indigenous communities have developed these sophisticated systems for maintaining and enhancing biodiversity through generations of careful observation and adaptation. These practices often involve complex polycultures where multiple crops can grow together in a mutually beneficial relationship or relationships, resilient agricultural ecosystems that support both human needs and also the local wildlife. The preservation of agrobiodiversity through exchange networks represents yet another crucial aspect of traditional stewardship that maintains a diverse ecosystem. And this is really, really important and very valuable for changing environmental conditions. Many indigenous communities have maintained varieties of crops specifically adapted to different environmental stressors. And this is quite effective for creating backup systems for food security. And then we think to the indigenous approaches to soil management, demonstrating this deep understanding of soil as a living system rather than just merely a growing medium. Traditional practices often focus on building soil organic matter through methods such as cover cropping, companion planting, and careful integration of organic materials. These techniques not only maintain soil fertility, but it also enhances its water holding capacity and resistance to erosion. Both the historical and the contemporary examples that we see in Indigenous communities across the globe really demonstrate how traditional knowledge can transform and enhance ecosystem productivity, while also sequestering carbon and supporting biodiversity. Indigenous food securities strategies typically incorporate multiple layers of resilience. Traditional agricultural systems often combine annual crops with perennial species, wild harvested foods, and sophisticated storage methods. It's through this diversified approach that really provides communities with food security, even when individual crops face challenges from weather events or any other kind of disturbance. The sophisticated understanding of seasonal patterns and ecological indicators within these indigenous knowledge systems allows for their communities to adapt their agricultural practices to an ever-changing world and all of these changing conditions. The adaptive management approach proves really valuable as climate change continues to disrupt our traditional growing seasons and weather patterns. Indigenous stewardship practices offers all of these methods, all of these proven methods across generations for addressing current environmental challenges, while also maintaining productive agricultural systems. These approaches demonstrate how human agricultural activities can enhance rather than degrade ecosystem health. Several key elements of Indigenous stewardship that are particularly relevant here includes things such as intergenerational knowledge transfer, where traditional ecological knowledge is passed down through generations, providing these detailed understandings of local ecosystems and their changes over time. And it's this long-term perspective that is really, really important for developing sustainable management strategies. And of course, there is a holistic management approach where these ecosystems are considered as whole. They don't just focus on crop production. And so here's a comprehensive approach where we see ecological balance also meeting human needs. And these traditional agricultural systems often incorporate multiple strategies for dealing with environmental variability, making them super critical as climate change increases weather unpredictability. The successful integration of Indigenous stewardship practices into broader ecological and agricultural systems really does require several key considerations. And this is a key component of the Regenerative Relations Initiative. It is cultivating sovereignty. Indigenous communities must maintain sovereignty over their traditional knowledges while sharing these beneficial practices with wider audiences, with more communities. This ensures that traditional knowledge systems can remain intact while also contributing to global sustainability efforts. Supporting Indigenous land rights and traditional practices must accompany any effort to learn from and implement traditional stewardship methods. The effectiveness of these practices often depends on maintaining a cultural context in which they were developed. And the integration of traditional knowledge with contemporary scientific understanding can create really powerful synergies with addressing these current environmental challenges. And so it's through this combination of time-tested practices with modern monitorings and adaptation tools that can offer a lot of pathways for developing truly sustainable agricultural ecosystems. It's through these elements that Indigenous stewardship and the sovereignty inherent in those practices provides a framework for maintaining biodiversity, building soil health, and ensuring food security while supporting community well-being and ecological restoration. As we face all of these environmental challenges, these traditional approaches offer valuable guidance and for developing truly sustainable agricultural systems. Not only are we seeing that these traditional stewardship systems have maintained this biological diversity through enhancing soil fertility. As a result, we see robust and reliable food production. And so we want to be thinking about how all of these elements of ensuring biodiversity are connected with sovereignty. And we need to think of how are we relating with the land? How are we allowing for those who have had long-term relationships with an ecosystem to be able to continue to have those relationships? And how do those relationships ensure that we can be nourished? And how does the knowledge that these living places hold ensure the continuation of culture and of life? The Regenerative Relations Initiative represents a transformative approach to agricultural development, one that recognizes that Indigenous knowledge systems are key to creating sustainable and reliable food systems. This vision extends beyond merely sustainable practices to actively regenerative ones that restore ecosystems while supporting community well-being. Our approach demonstrates that regenerative agriculture, guided by Indigenous wisdom and supported by appropriate technology, can create food systems that enhance rather than deplete natural resources. And this is a model that proves to be particularly crucial as global agriculture faces unprecedented challenges. Um, and so I did want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we offer uh, through the Regenerative Relations Initiative. Participating communities within this inaugural cohort are going to be receiving support through both culturally relevant, traditional, and technological means. So here we have our tech access and support, and that is going to be through the offering of the natural farming fertilizer assistant chatbot, our AI-powered agriculture assistant, which is going to be providing these locally adapted natural farming formulations. So we're going to ensure that each of the communities are receiving locally relevant information to support their food sovereignty efforts, their ecological restoration efforts. This guidance is going to be rooted in Indigenous, traditional, ecological, and cultural knowledge, also known as ITEC. We're also going to be providing these resources for creating solutions from readily available materials, much like the example that I had shown you earlier, where we were able to see all of the local bioaccumulator plants that were available in the Anza Borrego area in Southern California. And we're also going to ensure that there is that multi-language accessibility. So these key pieces are going to, ideally support these communities' efforts in ensuring that they can continue to grow what they want to grow and maintain the relationships that they have had since time immemorial. We're also going to be having knowledge exchange as a huge part of this. Um, I think that one of the things that is really amazing about being able to connect with Indigenous communities from different areas is that we can cross-pollinate these regenerative practices with one another. And cultural exchange is a key component of this knowledge exchange. We want to include elements of intergenerational knowledge transmission and integration of culturally relevant elements. We're going to be offering a digital workspace where each of these communities can provide monthly reports, engaging community dialogue, really support each other through sharing what they have learned through this cohort's resources that are being provided, and also learn from each other. I think that one of the most important things as we move forward into reimagining a future and actualizing that future together is that we have to do it together. And we all have wealths of knowledge within our own communities. And we really want to make sure that we're amplifying those voices and amplifying those ways of knowing and those ways of being to better support our collective planet, our collective home. We're going to be providing various forms of support and training. We are going to be providing expert guidance through our Copyleft frameworks, showing our cohort members how they can be engaging with the Copyleft frameworks that we have been collaboratively developing as a community. We are also going to be providing technical assistance for ecological restoration, whether that's through our agriculture assistant or through working with experts in the field in ecological restoration. We're also going to be providing support in developing the protocol for data governance that honors community autonomy. These protocols are really essential as we begin to move forward. As I was speaking to technological solutions, I think that there's so much potential in engaging with these different tools that we have access to when we are implementing and integrating Indigenous knowledge systems and cultural information into these different technological tools. We need to make sure that our communities have a say over what is being shared, how this information is being used. We want to make sure that there is a duty of care that is being carried and followed through with as we move forward in our work together to regenerate our future together. We are also going to be providing agricultural assistant integration, specifically geared for those communities. And we're also going to be providing tools and support for documenting traditional knowledge under community governance. I think that this is really a key element of the Regenerative Relations Initiative that makes it groundbreaking. When we think of traditional knowledge and ecological knowledge, so many times is it that Indigenous communities have been exploited, taken advantage of. We can look to examples of biopiracy where the knowledge of the life that exists in a place is taken advantage of. It's extracted, it's exploited, and we want to make sure that we do not allow for that to happen. And in order for us to do that, we need to be engaging in community dialogue. We need to be engaging in governance. We need to be discussing what is the protocol that we want to ensure, we want to establish as we move forward in expanding our community here. We also have project development as a key piece of the Regenerative Relations Initiative. We are going to be doing community-specific planning. We will be working not only collaboratively as the 7 communities together, but our team at Copy Left Cultivars is going to be supporting community-specific planning, ensuring that the tools and the resources that we are offering are going to be contextualized for the communities that are going to be using them. We're going to be doing adaptive progress tracking. We're going to be talking about how to develop more climate resilient strategies. A lot of what I had spoken to earlier about climate resilience and resilience generally, a lot of that information has been lost, very much due to settler colonialism. And so this platform, this cohort, this initiative is really going to offer the opportunity for us to remember and reconnect and regenerate and revitalize these climate resilience strategies that our Indigenous communities all across the globe have been engaging in since time immemorial. We're going to be in learning environments that offer both empirical and cultural understanding. I think that it's important for us to consider that cultural understanding is just as valid as Western science. We are going to be creating a bridge between these two thought worlds to support these project development efforts for each of the communities. And we're also going to be creating these resources for cultivating sustainable ecosystems within ancestral territories. So as we look to building regenerative futures, I can't help but consider how these regenerative agricultural practices really depend on strong community leadership. The Regenerative Relations Initiative supports the development of local leaders who can guide their communities in maintaining and advancing regenerative practices. This leadership development ensures that regenerative approaches continue evolving and spreading beyond the initial program period. We want to really speak to how Indigenous food sovereignty nurtures biodiversity and traditional land management builds climate resilience. And when we hold these two pieces together of Indigenous food sovereignty and land stewardship and how they're connected with climate resilience and biodiversity, when we hold that in our hearts and we uplift these efforts, we really truly can build a regenerative future together. So on behalf of Copy Left Cultivars, I would like to invite our Indigenous communities to join our inaugural Regenerative Relations Initiative cohort. We are going to be an international network focused on advancing land stewardship, food sovereignty, and data sovereignty through these Indigenous-led regenerative practices. This is very much an Indigenous-led initiative. It's very exciting, it's very groundbreaking, and we hope that you can join us for this inaugural cohort. We do have a couple of different dates that are important for you to know about on January 20th at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be hosting an informational webinar. We're going to be going into a little bit more of the key details about this initiative and how to go about applying. Our applications will be open until February 16th. The deadline is at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard. By February 22nd, you will hear if you have been accepted into the cohort, and we will begin with our welcome orientation on March 7th and have our first official meeting together on March 22nd. So just in time for the spring at least in the Northern Hemisphere. But of course, this is very much open to any Indigenous community anywhere in the world. We will definitely be excited to hear from you. And for more information, please visit us at www.copyleftcultivars.com. There you can find our official announcement, which really goes into detail about all of the different elements of our initiative. We have our link to the informational webinar registration as well as our application. If you just want to learn a little bit more about Copy Left Cultivars, we also invite you to just come visit our website. And we do have an email. It's regenerativerelationsinitiative@gmail.com. If you want to reach out, maybe you feel really called to support this inaugural cohort. We welcome any support that we can possibly get. Choco Tasiavu, thank you so much, all of you, for taking some time to learn a little bit about this really exciting initiative. I am so honored to have had the opportunity to share it with you all. I wish you all a very beautiful day, and and a happy life, an abundant life. I'm so grateful that there is such an incredible community here, reimagining a regenerative future together. Ito David. We'll see you later, my friends.